Our next guest, he's one of the most beloved teammates of all time. He is an author, he is a broadcaster, he is a former NHLer, and is joining
Hypochondriac.
us from New
Is it
York
Rhett?
City, the Big Apple, Jamie McLennan. Look at Noodles. There he is, buddy. How are we?
I'm good. How you guys doing?
Well, pretty good. We weren't sure if we were going to get you. We were worried that you were going to get.
I was.
Yeah.
Can you see I'm like sweating? I've got a towel here. I'm like just ran up to my hotel room, toweling off.
Well, it's hot and humid in New York. How was the travel day? They delay and everything always?
I'm not bad. I live in Toronto, right? So it's a 50-minute flight, but I'm laying in bed last night. I swear to God, 11:20, and I was supposed to be on an 8 a.m. flight this morning, and I get this notification saying your flight's just canceled. We're going to put you on a different one, and I'm like, all right, well, I'm only going down here for 24 hours, so let's figure this out. And then I ended up getting on a different one. I was supposed to fly into New York, New Jersey. And then they put me into LaGuardia, and then LaGuardia was delayed this morning. But it is what it is. I'm here. I'm going to be here for less than 24 hours. I'm going to visit some friends who are performing in Jersey tonight. So I'm going to go down there, catch the concert, and have a few drinks, and then fly back tomorrow morning. And luckily, I won't be flying the plane because I probably won't be able to.
There you go.
That sounds like a good night. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I thought maybe is this Chris Drury got an interview with you or something?
No, he flushes my calls. That guy. I mean, I don't know, Retro. If you reach out to him, I ran into him when I was calling a game this year, and we had a good catch up, and then we text a little bit, and then he's gone dark. Like I'm on the pay no mind the pigeon list again. So I think it'll be another 5 years before I catch up with him.
Yeah, no, Drury doesn't like me because I got him traded to Buffalo. Although he wanted out of Calgary, but
He
I don't
sure
know if
did.
Buffalo was on his list.
Yeah. And then really wanted out of Buffalo
You guys
too.
remember this? Do you remember when he got traded? I laugh about this all the time. I don't know if you guys remember this, but when Drury got traded from Colorado to Calgary, he was on the front cover of like the Calgary Sun, and they had superimposed a jersey on his like face, kind of holding it, and it looked like he was like had been crying. Like it looked like he was like so devastated. And I like to this day still tease him about that. I'm like, here, hold this jersey and try and smile. You're going to Calgary. Good luck. But he ended up, I mean, Retro, I don't know. You loved him. I loved him as a player. He was unbelievable, and he's a good guy. And he brought Stefan Yell, the sandbox, with him. So that was awesome. That was a good trade for us.
And then when he came to Buffalo, I mean, I was in Calgary with you, but that team they had here in Buffalo, they won the Presidents. They played fast and high skilled coming out of that lockout. They were unbelievable, that line. And then they wouldn't pay him and keep him around. Him and Briere and McKee and guys start leaving. It's sad to think that they had that good a lineup here in Buffalo, and then they just let him go.
Yeah, it happens. You know how the business of, a lot of times when you're behind the curtain, you see how things work. The general manager may want to do something, and the owner goes, no, we're not having that. We're not paying that amount. We're not doing this. Or there's a lot of cooks in the kitchen behind the curtain in at the NHL. I mean, all pro sports. So who knows? But
kind of like
he's a good GM.
Kind of like that Iginla guy. He's in there mixing drinks.
I don't know what's going to happen there, but I think it's funny when Iggy joined the organization in his role. I don't know how many texts I got from former teammates that guys like Robin reaching out. I think you and I text, but it's just like those two are back together now. So it'll be interesting to see. They will have. I guarantee you the one thing: they're both passionate hockey guys, smart hockey men. But they will have spirited debates over everything, because those two used to argue about crossword puzzles in the dressing room. I can't imagine them, running an organization and arguing about it. I think it'll be awesome.
They'll be in the room at the Dome, just battling back and forth, not wanting to give an inch either way, just debating. Like, it'll be insane.
I was talking to
Connie's Connie's got the hammer, though. Connie's got the hammer now, though. He's the guy, right?
Yeah, I was talking to Conroy at a charity event about a month and a half ago. And I says, how's it going? It's so Iggy, hey, you guys. Well, Jerome's already in here. Oh, we got to do this and we got to do that. It's like, well, yeah, okay, Jerome, but it's not just as easy as that. We got to talk to some. So yeah, it probably took all of about 15 minutes for those two to be right into it again.
Yeah, right back to the 0405 yelling and screaming and passion and all of that. But I think it's good. Honestly, the more smart, passionate people you can have in your organization, I think it's the right move. Connie's a guy who's put in his time. That's the one thing that always bothered me. I don't know how you guys felt about it, but I look at other people throughout the league. They get named GMs, and I'm sure they're qualified, but I was like, Connie's put in the time. This guy literally, all he does was travel and take care of everything. As an AGM, he put in a lot of and learning the craft. And I'm happy for him. I'm happy that Calgary gave him the opportunity. And I think he'll run with it. I think he's going to do a really good job.
What's funny about those two is you can see Jerome being that way. But for Craig, you just feel like he'd be, shucks, okay, whatever, that those two butted heads like they did and no doubt will continue to. They love each other. They're, best friends or whatever. But you just think Conroy would eventually just kind of back down. But good on him. He was in there toe-to-toe with Jerome all the time.
And you know what the thing is people that don't know Connie, like he comes off doesn't come off. He's affable. He's likable. He's a big personality. But he's got a very competitive, and we'll call it like a mean streak, a mean side. Now, we haven't really seen it as a manager, but he's going to have to flex his muscle at some point with players, with agents, with parents that intervene, you name it. He's going to have to draw a line in the sand and say, yes, I am a good guy. I'm well-spoken. Yes, I like to, have a laugh here or there. But at the end of the day, he's going to have to make some very tough decisions as a manager. And, that's what's going to define him. And I don't think he's going to have a problem doing it. I think you're going to be pleasantly surprised if you are looking for that, how Connie's going to be able to be very strong in certain situations to stand up for himself and the organization.
What are your thoughts on the team right now? I mean, he's been put in a tough situation, I think, to deal with. He's got a lot on his plate. You don't want to make any rash decisions. What's your thoughts on the team as a whole? And do you think any ideas as to what you think he's going to do or go about it?
Well, the only thing, I don't think they can blow it up right now. So I'm going to give you a quick synopsis. I don't think they can blow it up because there's too many pieces and long-term deals that you'd have to move out. And I don't think you get value for those players. You could get value for one or two of them, but if you were going to blow it up and go, hey, Markstrom, Kadri, Lindholm, all of these guys, all available, and then Huberdeau available, I don't think you could do it. So I'll say this. This is maybe a poor prediction because I'm not great with predictions, but I think the Flames are going to have a good season just based on how bad it was last year. Every one of their players that you expected good things out of didn't have a good season. Kadri didn't have a good season. Huberdeau was terrible. We saw that with the point production. Lindholm had a drop off. Rasmus Anderson gets hit by a car. Markstrom was not honest to God, you just had you couldn't pull one guy off that roster and go, and that guy's been brilliant every night. So if you look at it, you have a long summer of working out, getting your head right. We'll call it an organization change. I think just through osmosis, that group's going to be better. Now, I don't know what that means because are they going to be able to play with the guys up the road? Because those, McDavid and Draisaitl aren't going anywhere, in the next couple of years, we'll call it. So, and I think Edmonton's gotten better through some of the growth of some of their young players. I think Bouchard has a chance to be a really good player if the light can go on for him. Offensively, he can. Defensively, I don't know if he's – Rhett, you would be able to speak to it more, but, he's lost a little bit. But at the end of the day, I look at Calgary's team, and I think they'll be a better team just through, hey, what if Huberdeau comes back to a 90-point pace? What if Lindholm's a 35-goal scorer? And, again, they've got to deal with contracts. So you got to deal with Hanifin. You got to deal with Lindholm. You got to deal with Backlund. So, I think they're going to be they're going to be a better team, but I don't know what that means and how it translates against your competition around you.
One of the things that's interesting, you know from playing, was guys that are in contract years tend to perform quite well, and they got a lot of them.
Yeah, I was always scared to death every year of my career, but I always felt like it was a contract year because I was fighting for my life. I can't imagine, you got a guy, like I said, Backlund is Rhett, him. He's a quality human, man. He's really turned into like a captain type of like just a solid citizen. I hope if he wants to stay, they work something out that works for both sides. Lindholm, I don't know what the number is. It's so weird watching some of these free agents throughout the league, the Timo Meyers, Willie Nylander in Toronto, what he allegedly wants. And, so where do these guys fall? And at Lindholm being 30 years old, does he want an 8-year deal? Now are you in a tough situation to give him a big number for, on term and contract? So, and Hanifin, same situation. Like, what's his price point? And, do you have young guys that are pushing through it? It sounds like Shillington's going to come back. I think he's a guy who's got some good upside. So if you look at it, there's some big decisions, to your point, that Connie's got to make here coming around the corner. And they're going to be hard ones that may not be the most popular.
You talk about Conroy kind of having to dig his heels in and have, I don't think people are really worried about it, but to kind of show that he's going to be stern. I wonder if the fact that we saw the Toffoli deal happen before the draft and nothing since. I wonder if that is Conroy being stern, that there's probably been a number of really awful trade offers or trades that just weren't going to make sense. The pressure to do something is always so intense for GMs and a hockey market even more so, and knowing that these guys can walk for nothing after Gaudreau did, and we saw how all that played out. I wonder if this is Conroy showing that backbone by not just taking a bad deal just to get something for these guys instead of losing them.
I think it's a great point because I do believe that. You don't trade people just for the sake of trading people. Like you're not doing them a favor. You got to do your organization a favor. And keep in mind, Rhett, you just pointed out, like in a contract year, these guys are playing for their, future, their financial future and all of that. So you look at a guy like Toffoli, who is now north of 30. He's not the fastest player in the world. I'm going to remind me, it's Sharon Povich. Is that his name? Like I just butcher him.
Yeah, Maria Sharapova.
Yeah, exactly. Sure.
Yeah, no,
but
Sharon Govich. Sharon Govich.
So he scored 25 or 26 a couple years ago. Played mostly 5-on-5. So if you look at it, I thought that was a really shrewd move. You get younger, you get faster because he can play on the penalty kill. If you give him some power play minutes, maybe you develop some chemistry with a guy like Huberdeau or Kadri or Lindholm or somebody. Like you got younger, faster, and a little bit more dynamic with one trade. Now I know Tyler Toffoli, playoff winner, great human, all of that stuff. But that was a shrewd move by Craig Conroy because I don't know if it was the most popular move in the world, but he made it. And I'd almost sent it, for me, it sent a wave saying, okay, this guy means business. If you don't want to be here, I'll find a spot for you, but I'll do it on my time. So, coming back to that, I think there will be a timetable. Obviously, he's not going to let anybody walk. So he'll have to, no matter where, if something doesn't get sorted out with these three players we were talking about, at some point, he's going to have to make the hard decision where Calgary could be in a President's Trophy race, and he's going to have to make decisions on these players. But at the end of the day, you've got to let that sort out, and you got to get value, or you got to get what you want out of it, not just the player. And we see a lot of players holding teams hostage these days. I don't know how that pendulum's going to swing, but Connie's got his work cut out for him on that.
As you can imagine, we love talking Toronto, or people love that we talk about the Toronto Maple Leafs here in Calgary and out west. They just they can't get enough of it. But I did want to ask you, with Austin Matthews signing the deal, and I guess the contract value we can talk about, but let's go back a year ago. A lot of people were saying he's not signing. Why would he sign? He can go wherever he wants. He can get all the money wherever he wants to go. Did you think he would re-sign a year ago?
Honestly, if I'm being honest, I I would say yes, but in the back of my mind, you know what it was in the back of my mind? Two things, okay? Yes, he's an American kid who grew up in Arizona, so I don't know if he really has those like deep roots into the city of Toronto or into the country of Canada. And secondly, you looked at LA's salary structure with Kopitar coming up, it just seemed like an easy fit. And, you know, you add in, and I know I'm actually joking, but not joking. Like you look at his friend, like he's best friends with a guy like Justin Bieber. So, you know, people are in his ear going, hey, you know, you can play in LA, you can play here, you can, you know, and he's a big market guy. Like I think Austin Matthews is really good at handling the pressure and kind of just, you know, playing his game and not getting too distracted by a lot of the loud noise. In the heart of hearts, I think he's a lot like McDavid. I think he's a lot like McKinnon and guys. They started a job and they want to finish it somehow with their respected organizations. And I think Austin's got they got a good team there. Edmonton's got a good team. McKinnon, you know, in Colorado, they got it done. I think a lot of these top end players, you know, with their first team, they want to have that success and they've got the luxury of time. You can always ask for a trade. You can always ask to be moved at some point. I think he put 13.25 in his jeans for, you know, the next 4 years after this year. And I think it'll work out for both sides.
Does he take a beating in the media and by the fans there? Because I feel like that's Marner territory. There's other guys who have taken that. And I guess when you score at the rate that he does, you never struggle for any amount of time. So it's harder to shit on a guy when he's playing so well. But it feels like he's the highest paid, he's the star, but is also kind of above all of that kind of vitriol that a lot of guys hate about playing in Toronto.
Yeah, you're right. You know, Marner, the local guy, takes a lot of heat, even though he had 99 points last year. You know, Tavares is 11 million. You know, that is a focal point. You know, Nylander, his effort level sometimes, like I joke that Nylander, like Nylander is like the prime minister. It's just like there's people that are on one side or the other. There's no in between. Like it's just this guy, he can do no wrong or he can do no right, depending on who you talk to. But Matthews, you know, to your point, I think he's above all of that. Yes, he gets criticism. And the criticism now is just for that whole group as they've been together for 7 years and they've got one playoff round win. So that's a legit criticism. But if you look at Matthews and Marner and Nylander and Tavares, that group, they've been 110 points or north of that in the regular season. Matthews has won a Hart. He's won, you know, the Rocket Richard twice. Like there's not much to criticize in the regular season. What happens is during the regular season for 6 months, they're the greatest team on this planet. And then in the playoffs, when they haven't had success, it's literally like, oh, well, other teams are really good too. They're allowed to be good. And then when they lose out, people say, we're done with them. We're done with them. And guess what? Right now, when I go back to work on September 5th, they'll be the greatest team again on this planet until they prove it in April. So that's just kind of how the cycle works in Toronto. But eventually, and that's the argument, is eventually they got to break through. Well, that's up to the players. That's not Brad Treliving. He can't go and strap the pads on or score goals or do whatever. He's got to put the best team he puts on the ice, and those guys got to go and earn it. But getting back to your original point, I think Matthews doesn't get a lot of criticism because there's not much to criticize. He has been an unbelievable player for many years.
I wanted to bring it back. I guess it's been weeks now. We wanted to reach out and just didn't work out schedule-wise, but Mika Kiprasov's numbers going up to the rafters here at the Dome this year. I guess you've got to be coming back for that event, I would guess, depending on what you're doing. But you were riding shotgun with that guy for the best days. That's the reason why he's going up. You were there for most, if not all of it. What your thoughts on Kipper? No one knows what to expect that night. But I guess just thoughts in general on Kipper getting his number retired.
Yeah, I was a floater that just hung on his coattails, but it was great. I mean, honestly, you know, talking to Kip when, you know, when the Flames broke the news to him, like I will say, and knowing him and And I'm one of the guys who I would say I'm fortunate enough to stay in touch with him, because we all know he's a very private person and doesn't return a lot of calls or texts, if any. But you know what? Like him and I we stay in touch maybe once every 6 weeks, 2 months, a funny text here or a picture or something going on in the news. He'll clip it and send it. But I was very proud. I am completely biased. I think he's a Hall of Famer because, like, you look at the goalies I played with: Ron Hextall, Roman Turek, Grant Fear, Roberto Luongo, Mika Kiprusoff, like some of the best that played. I think Kipper's one of them. Like, I really believe he's one of the greatest goaltenders who ever played the game. Again, fully biased because I saw him work every day, and I saw him play 70 games plus for 7 years in a row, which is insane. Absolutely insane when you've got a 32 VO2. But honest to God, I am coming back. I've booked off work. I'm very proud to be a part of what is going to go on. And I'm very curious to see how it's going to unfold because he's such a humble guy. I know he's very proud to see his boys witness that because they were very young. One wasn't born, I think, or one was just being born, Oscar, and Aro was around, but just a young boy. So I think for his sons to see how big of a legend that is, it's pretty special. So I'm very excited for him. And I am definitely going to bring a lot of Gatorade to Calgary that weekend because I think there'll be a lot of festivities going on that weekend with a lot of the boys, including our boy Retro here.
He is one of the best. I played with Beezer in Florida, and Hasek in Buffalo, and Kipper. And I mean, all three of them kept me in the league. And I was as comfortable with Kipper as any goalie of those other two goalies. And I don't know, did they put Beezer in the Hall of Fame or not? I can't even remember, but Dom for sure.
He should be. Like you did, you're lucky. You played with some great goalies.
Oh.
And I think what we're seeing is the Hall of Fame is starting to recognize that not enough goalies they've been overshadowed.
Yeah.
So now there's 3 going in this year, with Barrasso, Vernon, and who's the Lundqvist. And honestly, like I swear, if you look at the wins since Kipper came into the league, if you look at who won games, like it's like Kiprusoff, Lundqvist, Luongo, like Hall of Famers and him. Like it's pretty special. So I don't know if he'll ever make it, but he was that special of a goaltender. And you're right, Retro. He made everybody better.
So Rhett, well, obviously, you're right. You were here when Kipper came in. Jamie, you came in afterwards. He had already been here. I guess when you talk about the great goalies that you played.
No, he was there.
Okay. That's right. Yeah, it was the year before. Yeah,
I was the reason why Daryl.
That's right. The Sternum.
I was the reason Daryl went and got Kipper because I had Roman was hurt and I was hurt, but I wasn't good enough to be the starter. So Daryl grabbed Kipper, and then Kipper and I played together until Roman got healthy, and then Daryl traded me for Simon. But Kipper was unbelievable that first year. But I remember his first game. It was a dud. He gave up like 6 or 7 goals. We went for a drink afterwards, and he's like, what the hell was going on out there? We were kind of chuckling. And then after that, he just took off and was the best goalie in the league. But yeah, I was in Calgary for 2 tours of duty with him, and unbelievable.
Yeah. Because Rhett talks about it took him all of maybe 1 practice or 1 game to kind of realize, ooh, this guy's pretty good. You talk about the things that made him great. From a goalie's perspective, you'd be looking at different things. Obviously, as fans, we'd look, oh, he made big saves in a game. What were some of the things that led to him? Whether it's practice, off ice, you mentioned the VO2, it wasn't that, but just what was it about Kipper that made him so great?
It wasn't practice either, I'll tell you that. But he was, honestly, a couple things. His flexibility, and I'm not lying, Rhett can speak to this. He used to stretch for hours a day. Like literally, we would have morning skate, he'd come off early, he'd stretch, you'd go, shower, ice, you name it, have meetings, come back, he'd still be in the gym stretching. Like he was a fiend when it came to stretching because he knew what his body took to be ready that night. And the other thing is mentally. He was the most mentally tough athlete I have ever played with, as far as being able to identify the situation, because, you know, he plays kind of like I'm the Finnish guy laid back, and that he was really smart and is to this day very highly intelligent, so he could read plays. And I remember when I retired and became, you know, the goaltending coach there, we would talk, and he could tell you the plays developing as the play was coming towards you. He'd know the options. He'd know what he needed to do to give himself the best chance to make that save. Intelligent goaltender. And then you throw in the flexibility, the feet. He had great feet. You know, the durability. He played hurt or sick or you name it. He was able to play 70 games. And he had a great glove hand as well. So he had just all the tools to be this elite goaltender. And then you got that temperament where just nothing bothers him. It was almost like a perfect goaltender in that era. Now he's only 6'1". In today's world, you got to be 6'4", 6'5", 6'6" type of thing. But he was the perfect goaltender if you looked at a lot of the attributes.
Didn't he spend a lot of time? I mean, everyone thinks, well, he'd love to have fun, and he did. But on the road, he would cave it up in his hotel room. And I never knew, but I thought I heard rumors were always abound that he'd sit and watch video of the other teams and their shooters and all that stuff, like spend hours studying the other team.
You know what? He did, and you're right. On the road, he always caved it up. Yeah. Like he wasn't out, or, you know, once in a while here or there would go for, you know, go somewhere a little bit here or there. But for the most part, he never, ever on the road did anything. And it's not spending hours, but again, he was always aware of what was going on in the league. So before, you know, technology has caught up, nowadays it's RinkNet, and you can go on these, you know, SportLogic has, you know, the pre-scout where you can punch in a guy's shift. You see on the bench now, guys look at their shifts on the iPad. Well, as a goalie coach, I used to have to clip those. And I would clip pre-scout plays and go, okay, this is what they're doing on the power play. This is what their top player, you know, player X is doing on a shootout, all of that. And he would say, and I would go to him sometimes the morning of a game and go, I've got a video for you. And he would go, no, I'm good. Like, I know that team. And he had already pre-scouted them himself. And then there was other times where he's like, I need to know this. Like, figure, what are they doing on their power play? Where's the shot coming from? What are the tendencies of that top player? So he was always like an encyclopedia of knowledge, but the way he went about it was unique because it wasn't, you know, in your face. You see a lot of times now, everybody wants the camera on me. Hey, come look what I'm doing. I'm working out. I'm Instagram working out. I'm doing all these things. He was the other way. He's like, I don't want anybody to know what I'm doing. I want people to think I'm sleeping in the corner there. And then I just show up and dominate. Like, that's what he was like. And like I say, he was just he was a brilliant hockey mind, but he hid it kind of behind this, like, hey, I've got a dip, you know, nothing's bothering me. I'm cool, man. But it was like, this guy knew everything about everybody. It was pretty impressive.
So what's your role there? You're a big part of Mika Kiprusoff, and I don't mean that to sound like a shot, but it's kind of like when a pitcher's got a no-hitter. No one talks to him, you just leave him be. Whether he's playing well or playing not well, he's playing poorly, maybe he's losing some. You've always been a kindred spirit to the guy you've been playing with. How do you interact with Kip? Or do you just kind of give him that room, or do you kind of get in behind that shield and work with him a little bit? Or what was that like, I guess?
Well, I think I've always felt like coaching is about relationships. Anybody can do X's and O's, like, especially nowadays. Like, God, you can have, and these video guys are amazing. They can cue up anything, different angles. You can, you know, draw on the screen, show, you know, anything you want. But it's all about the trust and the relationship. And I think that's the only thing that maybe gave me more of an in as a goalie coach with Kipper and Curtis McLennan and Vesa Toskala, as opposed to somebody else, was like, I'd been in his shoes. Yes, I played, but I played with him. I knew his psyche. I knew what made him tick. And he trusted me because he knew, you know, a lot of times a goalie coach, you're the goalie coach, and then the two goalies in the room are the only ones in the organization that really understand the position unless there's other people that have played it. So I always felt like you're constantly fighting because, I'll never forget. I laugh about this. I'm trying to remember his name. Is it Raymond? What was the Raymond kid from Vancouver?
Mason
Raymond. So I'm sitting there, and Kipper's out to lunch this night. I was like, he's just having a rough night. It's our first period, so I'm sitting up in the press box with Rob Cookson and myself, and I used to chart all the chances, shots, and Mason Raymond goes to dump it in from center ice, and I'm watching Kipper like he's not even watching the play, like he's looking. I don't know what he's looking at, like Depot on the bench or something, and it goes in the net, and like Kipper reacts like, honest to God, like 2 seconds after, I'm like, oh my God, like, and I can just see at the time Sutter's head's going to blow right off his body. And, Dave Lowry's on the headset going like, what do we do with this guy? And I'm like, I think we got to pull him, but let's see if he can battle out type of thing. And after the first period, I came down and I just stuck my head in the room and looked at him. And he was like, it's almost like he wanted to laugh, but he's like, I can't laugh. Like, I just allowed this goal from center ice. And it's like a switch went on. And he's like, okay, I gotta dig out here. And sure enough, like, he settled into the game. That was it. But he just had this ability. So a lot of it was relationship based. And then there were things where he was like, hey, I'm, some technical stuff. Like I'm getting, you could, stats don't lie. You're getting scored on from here or whatever. So we're going to do some drills. We're going to design some drills where you're a little bit more comfortable sealing the post or pushing off the post, like the technical stuff. But a lot of it was the relationship and managing the personality and the person and just having that like friendship going like, I got your back, buddy. Like you can light the house on fire. I'm there with you. So I think that's what was kind of special about our friendship. But in the end, like I still had a lot of work to do as a goalie coach. Like I look back on it and I was still learning myself. But I think that the one strength that I had was I had a close relationship with both of my goalies where I think they trusted me. And then I could give them as much information. I was their eyes and ears type of thing.
And Retro, we've talked about it. Did he have 1 year left on his deal when he quit? Because his relationship here with Hartley was not good. There was a deal that could have sent him to Toronto. He nixed that. You talk about Hall of Fame. I wonder how many more years he could have played at a high level.
If he was happy and enjoying it, he'd have played for as long as he could have played a long time. But he stopped enjoying it, the fun, because that was the thing for him. He worked his ass off, as Noodles has just alluded to, but he loved it. But he wanted everyone to be enjoying it, right? He didn't like it when guys weren't enjoying being at the rink. That drove him nuts.
Yeah. They didn't have success that year. And I know people talk about that last year on his deal was a throwaway. I think it dropped from $7 million to $1 or something like that. Yeah. So, but there were teams, I know this for a fact, and I'm not going to speak out of turn, but it's just there were teams that wanted to trade for him at the deadline and extend his deal immediately and just put money in his pocket. And he was like, I remember him saying to me, he's like, I respect this a ton. It's like, I don't know if I'm in it right now, my head, and I don't want to take a bunch of money from another organization or play if I don't feel like I could do the job. And I was really like taken back by that because you got people that are lining up to hand you money, and you're like, no, I got to make sure that I'm in the right headspace, and I'm not. I'm paraphrasing because he didn't tell me that, but I've just kind of got that sense. And to me, that was the toughest part. But he retired the way that we all expected Kipper to retire. It's just like, yeah, see you later. Like, yeah, I'll do the year-end meeting here. I'll be out in 10 minutes. And then he tells Peter Hanlon, I'll be out in 10 minutes. And then he walks out the back door and nobody sees him for years. Like, I don't even know if he did a year-end presser. Like, he just left. Like, that's Kipper in a nutshell. But I do think he could have played 5 more years with how talented he was and how he did take care of his body from a flexibility standpoint, from the, he was just built, vigilant, taking care of his body. So that does make me sad, because he probably could have made, not that he needed money, but probably could have made another 30, 40 million. Who knows?
Wow, all the money, but and alleviate any issues as to Hall of Fame talk. Right? Like if he plays 5 more years, he's going to have the numbers that support Hall of Fame immediately. Like there's no questioning about it.
Agreed. Like I never thought about that. Legacy is a big thing. Now we talk about it all the time. I don't know if you guys talk about it. Like, listen, I didn't have a Hall of Fame career. I had a long career, but I was proud of it. But it just, at the end of the day, your legacy is how people remember you, how you develop friendships in this game, all of the things that I think I take a lot of pride in. And I look back on it, Kipper's legacy is that I think he's one of the greatest goaltenders who ever played. But it just, to Retro's point, if he would have played another 5 years, we're talking slam dunk. This guy's a Hall of Famer. Yeah. So, but I am looking forward to March 2nd. That's going to be a really exciting weekend for not only the Kiprusoff family, but for a lot of people that really love and know him.
I think Rhett's resetting. We got to let you go anyway. We know you got to run. You got to. It sounds like a fun day. This is work. This is not work. This is a play. I guess a play trip, right? You're going to a concert.
It's a play trip. Full disclosure, it's Nickelback. I think I've talked to you guys, or you guys know. Chad is one of my best friends. We kind of grew up together. Or we've been close for 20 years. So I always try and catch him in a city that's not super busy. So they're playing in Humboldt, New Jersey tonight. So, go down, catch the concert. I caught them when they were in Alberta in June, and have a little visit and have a little fun and fly back to real life tomorrow.
Kind of a separate conversation, but do you feel like you talk about vitriol and the hatred that band has taken on for really, in a way, no good reason? Do you feel like they've gotten past that now? It almost feels like they've embraced it. They don't give a shit. It's almost like people have just kind of laid their weapons down. It's like, okay, you guys are what you are. I don't feel that same anti-Nickelback sentiment out there.
You know what it is? They've been around so long that there's a cycle of fans. So I was standing in the concert in Calgary, and Chad started talking about the song Photograph and how they played it for the first time in Calgary. That gave him goosebumps. And I looked around. There was, 16,000 people there, and there were kids. Like he said, like, I'm 52 years old, so it's easy. Chad, I think, is 48. So you can look out in the crowd. You can see people your age. But now all of a sudden you're seeing 21-year-olds singing every word to the song. So it's come around to the point where they joke that they were canceled before cancel culture. And they didn't. Yeah. You're right. They didn't cancel. And they powered through it. There's a movie coming out. They just announced today. They're going to be at TIFF. I'm just trying to look it up quickly. I was messaging with their manager, and it's a TIFF movie called, God, I got to find it, because they basically, it's like Love to Hate Nickelback, and it's like a documentary movie. And I saw some of the clips of Chad being interviewed, and they talk about some of the vitriol they faced and all that. But if you look at their analytics of some of the how many albums they've sold, how many streams, how much people know, it's almost like
concert tickets.
You either love them or, oh my God, you either love to hate them or you love them. But honestly, he knows them, and it's kind of neat. Like I say, I've seen them come full circle, and they're great. If you've never seen them live, they're really good live, because Chad just has a lot of fun. So,
well, not shocked. Retro, you're just jump back in there. It's Nickelback tonight for Noodles, which I know you'll be shocked.
I'm not shocked, but it's on point. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
I like to say that. That's me in a nutshell.
So we'll let you go here, but I know your plans. You're a busy guy in the fall, and now that Rhett and I aren't on the radio anymore, you and O-Dog have, I think, the best sports radio show in the country. So congrats on that.
We can hand that off to you.
Yeah, happy to give you that honor now. So you're doing the TSN stuff. You're doing the radio show. Walk us through your busy winter, your work schedule.
Well, yeah, I do 40 color games for the Ottawa Senators. That's one of our properties. I still do, analyst for Sports Center. I do that about 60 nights. Do That's Hockey. You talked about Overdrive. We do that 5 days a week from 4 to 7. It's just like I say, it's the car wash, we call it. The minute I start back September 5th and I'm done July 2nd. I'm 10 months on. So that's why I enjoy my summers off, because once you get into the Mecca here in Toronto, you can talk hockey for 24 hours a day, and they want you to. So I do a bunch of that. So like I say, my day job is Overdrive and calling color for the Senators, plus like I say, just all the other things that come with it, the other shows at Sports Center and That's Hockey. So it's I do the car wash, and looking forward to it, but it's happening a lot sooner than I thought, because this summer went very quickly.
Are you traveling for those Senators games, or do you do that in a studio?
No, I travel. I fly in. So even a home game for Ottawa is a road game for me. I'll fly in that morning, go to the rink, call the game, and then fly back the next day. But I love it. I love doing color. Like, it is,
I love doing all the things, but like, color is live TV. There's no manufactured chats. There's no, who should be the captain and how much should this guy get paid? It's like, you know what? Like, this is hockey, and we're talking about it. I love doing color. It's so much fun. I'll tell you guys this quickly. I got to go. I've had 2 concussions in between the benches in the last 3 years. I never got hit by anything in my career. I've been chopped by 2 sticks over the head. So it's embarrassing, but it is what it is. But I love doing it. It's a lot of fun.
Nice. One of the best. Appreciate you, Noodles. Anything before we go, Rhett?
No. Well, we'll let you go, because we want to have you on for sit you down for an hour or sometime and talk to you about all the shit you've done over your life and all the fun stuff and meningitis and chicken and rice and all the great stories at some point. But we appreciate you. If I don't see you before Kipper's thing, I'll see you there. Rest up before, right? Like, that's going to be part of the requirements.
Oh yeah, well, definitely. We're a bunch of old men, though, so we're going to have like hangover heaven or something. These IVs given to us every morning.
Beautiful. Thanks, James.
Oh, wow.
Appreciate you,
all
pal.
Right,
Be
thanks
well.
for having me, guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, love you.
Love you. One of the best. One of the best, Jamie McLennan.